When we examined Halton Arp's work in the Arp's Evidence series, we discussed his concept that galaxies seem to eject material outwards, which may then later form into quasars and over time develop into normal galaxies. It is believed that supermassive black holes sit at the centre of these galaxies. These should suck in all the material around them and not eject material outwards. Astronomers, however, have seen an event where the black hole seems to have ejected its entire corona. Let's dig a little deeper and see what we can uncover. The mainstream concept of a black hole is that it is a super-dense object where gravity becomes strong enough that nothing can escape, not even light. As material gets pulled in towards the black hole, it is believed that an accretion disk forms around it. This disk will heat up, and at the very centre of the disk, close to the black hole, a region of very hot electrons with temperatures around 1 billion degrees form, and this is what they call the corona. It is known for producing high-energy X-rays that stream into space. From observations we can see that many of these objects also emit beams of particles and undergo periodic flaring events. When astronomers were observing Markarian 335, they were able to capture one of these flaring events. Markarian 335 is a Seyfert galaxy located 324 million light-years away in the constellation of Pegasus. What is more interesting is the fact that they think that they have witnessed the black hole ejecting the entire corona during this event. It suggests to them that black holes send out beams of X-rays when their surrounding corona is shot or launched away from the black hole. They believe that this is confirmation that the coronas are present above and just below the rotational axis of the black hole. But how do they know that the corona moved at all? They believe that the corona gives off X-ray light that has a slightly different spectrum than the light coming from the disk around the black hole. By analysing the spectrum from Markarian 335, they believe that they can tell that the corona X-ray light had brightened, and that this brightening was due to the motion of the corona. This is an effect like the Doppler shift that occurs when material is moving at very high speeds, close to the speed of light. By putting the pieces together, they can link the emission of the X-ray flare to the corona being ejected. At this stage, though, it is important to point out that the source of X-rays they call the corona is still a mystery, and they have absolutely no clue what causes the ejection of the corona in the first place. So let's take a little step back. Arp's view was that material was ejected from these massive black holes and may eventually form quasars and then slowly evolve into companion galaxies. He examined many examples of this and saw that they slowed as they moved further away. Here we see material being ejected at very high speeds. We are probably not seeing any type of intrinsic redshift in the material at this point, as they only report on relativistic Doppler boosting, making it appear brighter. It would be interesting to observe what happens to this material over time. Now, it is also important to realise that the formation of the beams out of the black holes is not really well understood. There are some theories about the magnetic fields being warped around the spinning black hole and this causing electrons and positrons to flow along these field lines. When they observe the corona ejection event, they think that the corona formed into a beam before being ejected. Now, all of this reminds me of Eric Lerner's plasmoid quasar model. Here, plasma is condensed from a very large area into a very tight and compact area. This stores vast amounts of energy in a very small space. His model has this incoming material forming into two beams from either end. These beams are not continuous, but would turn on and off over a period of time. He later modified this concept to allow this to work within a galaxy, not just a quasar. Here he saw that new plasma would periodically be drawn in, forming a new plasmoid, which would then last for a certain period of time. It would then die out, and then the whole process would repeat. This concept was initially discovered in the laboratory, where he created a much smaller version of these plasmoids. Here there would be no corona, instead this is simply the plasma in the torus in glow mode, and particularly the most energetic part where the beam is being split. These would be producing what we see as X-rays, and this is exactly what he found in the laboratory. This may well be what we are seeing in the famous M87 image. So could this explain what we are seeing here? Are the flares we see in these events a consequence of a plasmoid reconnecting? Does this spark a more violent outburst, which would also be accompanied by additional X-rays? Could this explain the changes in the brightness that they associate with the corona of a black hole? Are these just switching events? Some may be larger than others. So what can we take away from this story? Firstly, this is evidence that these strange objects are ejecting material outwards along the axis of rotation, which matches with ARP's ejection idea. Could it be that a reconnection event in Lerner's model then ejects material during this process? One word of caution here is that they are not actually observing the motion of this material directly. It is inferred from what they think is a relativistic Doppler boost, but there is evidence of other material being ejected from galactic cores that we have covered in the ARP evidence series. Secondly, the brightening event and flaring may indeed provide evidence that this is actually a plasmoid where the incoming filaments are reconnecting. As always, be brave, be curious, the truth is waiting for us. Until next time.